Hello, Notre Dame fans. Mike Singer, Eric Hansen, and we got Robbie Toma back in the house. Robbie, it's good to see you, my friend. It's been a month. You only missed
Has it?
one show. You missed
I've only
one
been
show.
I've only been benched for one show. Okay, got it. How
Eric,
you doing, guys? Good to see you guys.
Good, great. Eric, you good, my friend?
I'm good. I may be benched after tonight's show.
Well, it depends on what you say, Eric. Although I don't know who I would replace you with, but it should be a fun show. I got to thank one person in particular. We'll get there in a little bit, but I was like, what the hell are we going to talk about? And then someone gave us some content, so I have to thank that person. But before we dive into the show, got to let you guys know that there's no better place to be during March Madness or March Mad matchups than Vegas. This year, college basketball fans can win a VIP trip to the Court of Legends event featuring the Cavender twins. Simply play sports bets, and your position on the leaderboard will determine if you win one of the 25 grand prize packages. Just sign into your BetMGM account, opt into the promotion, then start placing bets of at least $10 to climb the leaderboard. Make this March one to remember. Join the Court of Legends leaderboard and make it legendary. Last week on our show, we opened for probably the first 20 minutes talking about the late, great Lou Holtz as he had just passed. And yeah, just kind of talking about stories, watching clips, remembering the legendary Notre Dame coach. Rob, before we dove into today's show, I was just curious, any, your personal stories of Lou. I know you've been able to meet him.
Yeah, I've gotten to meet him in passing a handful of times, but I think one of the obviously Notre Dame lost an absolute legend and a great man, and I just remember waking up at the Marriott game day, popping college game day on, and just watching Lou Holtz just absolutely roast Mark May, and you can just feel the love that the guy had for the University of Notre Dame, and just definitely appreciated that. And then one of the better, but kind of, excuse me for my lack of better term, but shittier memories was when he got to speak to us before the national title game. Obviously, the shitty part is just the game, but God, the guy had such a presence. Just speaking to a group of young men, and you kind of could see why he was so successful at the University of Notre Dame and how he just commanded the room. So that's something that I'll always remember. And rest in peace to a great man. And definitely, I'm glad I got an opportunity to listen and also have a few words with him.
Now, if the answer is I don't know, Mike, it was so long ago, that's totally acceptable. But do you remember much about that pregame speech?
You know what? I sat in the front, and I don't mean to make fun of him, but I did get a little wet with him spitting at me. So I don't remember much from it, but I do remember how intense he was, and he was standing right in front of me, so kind of spit on me. But I do remember him just being so intense, and just he wanted that victory for us so bad, and for the university. And I don't remember the exact message, but I do remember his presence.
Eric, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Well, my recollection of that speech was that Robbie stood up and said, "Say it, don't spray it, coach."
Hey, for a guy who has a slight little lisp at times, I definitely appreciate what he's done for us. No, I'm kidding.
Eric, have you done any?
I don't know about clipping that, especially after saying I got wet. So let's keep it rated G, please.
Eric, have you? Since we did our show last Wednesday, do you want to talk about any of the content you've done? Like, I know you got to, I think it was on our show last Wednesday. You were about to talk to Aaron Taylor, and I know that story's been out.
Yeah, so I did end up talking to Aaron, and it was impossible to write just a story from that. Mm-hmm. So what I did was kind of frame what Aaron had to say, because there was so much there. You don't want to paraphrase what he had to say, and it was really an inside look at the layered and kind of complicated relationship with Lou Holtz, which was kind of a love-hate relationship when you played for him, right? He would get you so pissed off sometimes that Aaron said, sometimes we were just going to win because we wanted to say F you, Lou. But certainly he saw what Lou Holtz was trying to teach them was life. He wasn't teaching them football. He was teaching them how to survive in life, and football just happened to be the vehicle for it. And then when they were done with Notre Dame, I mean, Lou was there whenever they needed him. And so it was a very different relationship. And Lou told me in an interview when he was getting ready to go in the Hall of Fame that the reason he did that is because he didn't feel like he should be the player's friend. He felt like it was his job to raise the standard. And this was his way about raising the standard of Notre Dame. And so it was very, very interesting stuff. I think the one thing in terms of Lou Holtz's life that was left vague a little bit is him leaving in 1996. There's, to this day, there will be people that say, was he pushed or did he leave on his own? And Lou will tell you that he resigned. And then there's a lot of evidence that he was pushed, or at least the door was held open when he said, I'm thinking about leaving. See ya, bye. Don't let it smack you in the butt. But I think Lou could have made the exit a lot messier. But where I give him a lot of credit is he owned his part in that. He was a guy that didn't keep himself to the standard that he had set during the late 80s and early 90s, that he was declining in some ways. He was trying to maintain instead of continuing to get better. And Lou did admit to that. And I give him a lot of credit for owning that.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes me want to jump into our next topic right
away.
I
didn't want to say anything. I feel like Mike was already ready to jump on it. So
we will get there. I wanted to wait a little bit longer before we did that. But Eric, like I said earlier, this usually in the dog days of the off season, something is happening. Someone's saying something stupid in the media, or there's some crazy list.
Usually it's me.
No, or there's like some kind of update that gives us some things to talk about. It's just been so quiet, I would say, in the past month. But spring ball is so close. It is so close to being here. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So next Wednesday, we'll do like a full dive into, Eric, we'll do everything and anything under the sun. I'll probably solicit questions from, the message board and social media. We'll do, position battles. We'll do storylines. We'll kind of do all that stuff.
And we'll have had some fresh content from the morning. We'll have Marcus Freeman, Rob Hunt, the head trainer.
When's that?
Wednesday.
And
shout out Rob Lando, the director of football performance. We'll have all three of those guys Wednesday.
And then the first practice is the Friday?
Friday. Mm-hmm.
Is Freeman, I don't know if this is allowed to be public. Notre Dame doesn't like us talking about some of these things, but is Marcus also speaking next Friday after the first practice?
And we're having lunch.
So Marcus is speaking before and after the first practice.
I have to see who's after the first practice, but Marcus is speaking before. It's to help preview.
Huh.
Yeah. And so we'll get a rundown of all the injuries and all that stuff. When you start asking Robbie a question, I'll look it up and let you know we're talking on Friday. But that part I can confirm is going to be Wednesday.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask Robbie where he so you can look that up, where you purchased that attire.
This little bad boy. Shoot, this got to be 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
That thing is clean.
Bookstore purchase. I wasn't good enough to get one of those boxes sent in the mail, so got to go purchase it on my own at the bookstore. But no, I love this thing.
So you had to give them was it your arm and leg, or arm or leg to purchase that?
A little bit of both.
Sounds not cheap.
I think I just paid it off.
When I go to the bookstore, it's usually like a deck of cards and like a whiskey glass, and that's that's more my speed. Did you get anything on that, Eric? I'm just curious. Who's speaking Friday?
So on Friday we will not get Freeman again. We will have coordinators and then some players.
Also, gotta love Denbrock.
Yes, Denbrock will be one of them.
Getting a chance to speak. Love that guy.
Yeah.
So we will do a little spring preview discussion in the show. And Eric, you put out an article, 10 players who must surge this spring. So I'm going to go through and I'll give each name. I'll throw it to you, Eric, and then Rob, if you want to jump in after Eric's done, feel free. And I'm just going in the order you listed them, Eric. The first one was Christian Gray. And again, I'm using the term from the headline of the article, surge. So I'm curious, someone like Gray, as experienced he is, what's your mindset for him? Is it kind of like holding off some of those younger players, or are you thinking about a potential position switch for him?
A little bit of all that and more. So when you look at Christian Gray, we had Dane Brugler from The Athletic on our podcast, and he said, this was late in the season, that Christian Gray has the kind of traits, despite his ups and downs, that he would be a second or third rounder had he come out in this draft cycle. And Marcus Freeman, if you watch the Here Come the Irish docuseries, there was a point in the USC game where he said, you better get your ass going here or it'll be replaced. And then Christian responded with an interception. But that USC game was his worst graded film grade of the season, second worst of his career, only to Ohio State. And his season film grade was lower than anybody else on the team on defense that played 100 snaps or more. Only Carson Hobbs had a lower score. And we're talking about something in the 40s, or it was in the 50s. And the default average grade for a college player is 60. It had gone down 12 points from last year. So Marcus Freeman has had incredible faith that we're going to see this higher ceiling from Christian Gray. And it needs to show up this spring. That's my point of this. That either as the field corner or moving inside to nickel, which Aaron Henry, the new DB's coach, was asked about the possibility of, he needs to be that kind of player for Notre Dame, because you look at the rest of that secondary in terms of talent and depth, that's the best secondary in the country. Yeah. But if there's a soft spot in it, teams are going to find it and they're going to attack it.
Robbie?
Yeah, no, I think it's important, especially for a guy who's played, the amount of ball that he has for us, is to be able to, I guess, reinstill confidence in him, maybe not on himself, but at least the staff to get confidence back in him. And I don't think that we can afford to have that, what we call the marriage issue between the D linemen and the coverage again, like we did in the first 2 weeks of the season. So I think the spring is going to be very important for us to really solidify that good marriage between the two on the front and the back end.
Eric, would your money right now be on Gray playing nickel for Notre Dame this season? Like, that's the nickel?
I mean, I'm not putting all my chips in there, but I would put enough to win the pot, because I think he's going to get a good look there. Now, sometime those experiments work out great. Like CJ Procise was a spring experiment where he was a wide receiver at the time. They said, God, we need running backs. And It was, whoa, Jarrett Patterson moving to center. But sometimes Chris Stewart moving to nose guard didn't work. So I think this is one that's going to work. I think Christian played better. Like when Leonard Moore was hurt and he was over in the boundary, he was better not being the field corner. I think that's why you go out and get DJ McKinney. But we'll see if it plays out that way. And if he doesn't, Notre Dame suddenly has a lot of alternatives if it doesn't work out with Christian. You have Mark Zachary, you have Jaden Sanders out of Michigan, you have Kari Adams, who's really a typical boundary guy, but I mean, you could put him on the field too. There's so many good alternatives if Christian Gray either gets hurt or he is inconsistent, because the guy is resilient. What he's not been is consistent and dominant.
Yeah. Or you could just move Kari, or like between like Kari, I don't know if Joey's probably a safety, but Kari and Aiden Pouncey, like if one of those two guys just are absurd right away, like could they play boundary and then Leonard Moore could just play more field? Or do they not do they go away from boundary and field and just have you're the left corner and the right corner, or you follow this guy like it, we'll see. You have a new defensive backs coach, so he might bring in some different ideas. And Aaron Henry, for what it's worth, has the co-defensive coordinator tag, so just kind of things to keep an eye on there. Robbie talked about the marriage between the pass rush and the coverage. Bryce Young, he's got a big spring ahead of him. It's like Boubacar Traore is locked down on one of the DN spots, but on the other side, it seems like Bryce Young and Keon Keeley, I mean, we expect all those guys to play, but like who's getting the majority of those reps between the two? Bryce is going to have a lot to say this spring.
He is. And so first to address what Robbie said, that was a great point about marrying the fronts to the coverages. And one of the reasons why I was so excited about Charlie Partridge becoming the new defensive line coach, when you talk to other coaches about him, that's kind of like his signature skill set. And the fact that he has familiarity with Chris Ash, he also has enough weight with him where if Chris has a stupid idea in a meeting, he can say, Chris, in a very nice way, that's stupid.
Just like me and you, Eric, right?
Right, exactly. You say, that's stupid, sir.
Hey, at least I say sir.
That's right. And you will. The great thing about Mike Singer is you always know where you stand with him, and I appreciate that. But as far as where Bryce Young stands, Notre Dame lost a lot of edge guys, both with expired eligibility and a couple to the portal. And you think about Boubacar Traore is going to be a monster this year. And you have two guys on the other bookend that have that kind of ceiling but haven't gotten there yet. Both of them really need to get there, and hopefully they push each other to that point. Bryce actually improved a ton with his run defense. I mean, his run defense score was really good, and his overall film grade scores were better, but I think people expected him to have those big sacks, those big game-changing plays. And he was pretty average with pass rush and pressures. And so they need that part of his game to come out. And that's why Bryce Young is number 2 on my list.
Do you have anything else, Robbie?
No, I think, going back to the marriage, I mean, those first 2 games, it felt like those guys had all day to pass. So
yeah.
To have I remember, I think Bryce Young, when we played Georgia, he had those like 2 in a row running into the kickers. But you can see his athleticism. I know he ran into the kicker, but he was on special teams early in his career. So I'm excited to see his development and see how he gets to the quarterback this year.
Eric, what about Will Black, the 5-star offensive lineman in the 2025 class? And Eric, I'm like interested in your thoughts. I feel like Notre Dame fans that I see on like Twitter kind of like mock Notre Dame's offensive line. I don't know what's the right word, like rotation or just the lineup of you recruit all these tackles and you move them inside. I'm curious if what your response to that is. And I mean, I can share mine after if it differs from yours, but so yeah, thoughts on Will Black and that.
I'll give you 2 words, Quentin Nelson. He was left tackle coming out of high school, and he's the best guard in the NFL. And he was certainly the best guard in college football when he was a junior and a senior. And maybe the best guard Notre Dame has had in a long time of really good guards. And Jarrett Patterson came in as a left tackle, was an outstanding center and interior player. So no, I'm not going to. There's no wiggle room for me to say, you guys are right. That's
because Notre Dame, like, you guys disagree with me if you want. It's like you recruit a lot of high school tackles and they can move inside, but if you recruit a Cam Herron or a Joe Otting, they're inside guys.
Correct.
They're not moving outside.
Right.
Now, like, you might say, well, what about Anthony Knapp? Mike, he was ranked as a guard, but Notre Dame recruited him as a swing guy.
Right.
And it's not to say that a guard can't ever play tackle, but the kind of the rule, so to speak, is that an outside guy can go inside, but usually an inside guy's not going outside unless it's like a pinch, or I guess their arms, they get a lot longer overnight.
I think from an interior standpoint, the tackles are some of the most athletic guys on the field. They're in a back pedal having to guard some of the best athletes on the field at a full speed. So I mean, you even look like a guy like Zach Martin played tackle for us for a long time, and then they moved him into guard when he was in Dallas, and he obviously thrived. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I do like that move, and that's a great point, Mike. That I do think it is a lot harder for those inside guys to move out. So we got some athleticism moving in. I like that.
Which Will Black, it was pinned on our Instagram for the longest time. I don't think it is now, but I put out a video of him catching a screen pass. He ran out from tackle and it was a lateral, and he ran 60 yards downfield and scored a touchdown, and it wasn't against scrubs either. I mean, actually plays pretty competitive ball in Connecticut, that private school league. So Will Black kind of fits what we're talking about. A tackle recruit all the way. He could stay at tackle. He could move inside. Eric, what's your take on Will Black? Why is he someone that needs to surge this spring?
Well, Notre Dame is going to have at least a new starter on the offensive line, a new full-time starter. Whether Charles Jagaza is healthy eventually, which we believe eventually he will be, and same with Ashton Craig, you need to replace the Billy Schrouth piece. Sullivan Absher was the replacement there at the end. And why Will Black is on this list is, he came in last June, and I talked to some people inside the Goog, and they're like, whoa, this guy moves different. This 5-star thing's not a fluke. Now, how fast can he get used to the speed of the game, being a guy that came from Canada during his high school career to New England and then playing in the New England League, which is a better league than people think, but it's not South Florida. It's not California Trinity League, and it's not Chicago Catholic League. And that mitigated some of the athleticism during the year. And then in November, everything started to click. And so he only played 27 game snaps. He was high grades in those 27 game snaps. But in practices behind the scenes, the guy was absolutely surging. And I believe he will be a starter. If he's not a starter on this offensive line, that's going to mean either Sullivan Absher or Chris Tarek have made a big jump in their games. And that's a good thing. So Will Black needs to continue that surge that he had in November and in the non-bowl workouts they had during finals week in December.
So it seems like for the 5th starting offensive line spot, it's a battle between Augustine, Black, and Absher. Would you agree with that?
I would say probably more Black, Absher, Tarek. Augustine they love, and he is in the same category as Will Black, but I think they would like to keep him at tackle.
Right.
They want, if something happened to, let's say Anthony Knapp is a left tackle. I think Charles Jagaza could be, but let's say Anthony Knapp is a left tackle, Gerby is the right tackle. They want somebody in reserve in case one of those guys get hurt, or if Augustine could overtake them. At some point, Matty Augustine's going to be a starting tackle for Notre Dame.
Yeah. The other thing about the whole discussion that we had, I'm not trying to disparage anyone, just something I see on Twitter, on social media a lot. Another kind of aspect of it is it's a numbers thing. You only have 2 tackles. Do you want Gerby Lambert, for example, who Notre Dame brought in as a tackle, right? Do you want him, even though he's one of the 5 best offensive linemen, to sit the bench just to make us feel, all sparkly and get butterflies about our tackles are playing tackle? And Gerby, for what it's worth, I think he is going to go from guard to tackle.
Right. I think he will be at right tackle. And had he not injured his shoulder last spring, he would have gotten an audition at left tackle last year. They didn't know what his timeline was going to look like. They thought it was going to be longer. He was back at the start of camp, and then they suddenly had the need for a guard with Jagaza getting injured, and Gerby competed with Sullivan Absher there. But you want to put your best lineman on the field. If Ashton Craig has a setback, is Joe Otting your best option. He really played well in the USC game. After that, he was okay. Is Sullivan Absher a better option there? That's what spring football is for, to find out those answers.
Especially on the offensive line, so much mishmash, rotating, all that kind of stuff. Moving along, Elijah Hughes, the defensive lineman, going into his last year of eligibility. It's an interesting one. It's kind of like an X factor.
He is. So you think about going into the offseason, the interior defensive line was like, whoa, this could be the thing that weighs Notre Dame down from competing for a national championship. Then they get two really good portal finds in Francis Brew and Tion Gray. Jason Anye wins his battle with the NCAA for a sixth year. Suddenly you have three really good players, and you have 13 interior guys. You have guys like Christopher Burgess, who you know at some point is going to emerge. But Elijah Hughes surprised me last year. He played really well. And to have him as part of that top of the rotation to open the season gives you a really strong four players that you feel like we don't need a surprise. We need Elijah Hughes to continue what he was building last spring. And then if other people emerge, great. And it also gives you some insurance. Let's say if Francis Brew got hurt, you know, you could have heavy reps with Elijah Hughes. Then you need somebody else like Armel Mukum or somebody like that to join that top of the rotation. But I think he's just, that interior defensive line is still where Notre Dame probably has the biggest fault line if there's an injury, for example.
Yeah, but also just like loads of upside. I feel like
loads of upside.
Mukum was another that they got back, who maybe we didn't think he was, right? Because he entered the portal.
He U-turned.
He did U-turn. Robbie, any thoughts on the interior defensive line and
No, I think to Eric's point, I mean, probably one of the biggest issues we had in 2012 wasn't in the interior when we faced Alabama. So anytime we can get, anytime we can control the line of scrimmage from the defensive standpoint. I mean, if there's anything we learned from the Seattle Seahawks this year is if you can get pressure and you can hold up with four guys, I mean, you're going to be good. So hopefully that's the case.
Eric, I'm surprised to be saying Jaden Greathouse because everyone told me that he was going to transfer, except for we were telling you guys all season he's not. But here we are, and he's still on the team, right, Eric?
Love it.
He is, and we're skipping from 4 to 6, and we can go back to 5.
Yep, good call.
But so why I think Jaden Greathouse is important. I mean, you think about his run in the college football playoff in 2024. And he had more catches in the Ohio State game than he had the first 4 games of this year. So he did get hurt, but he didn't look like that Jaden Greathouse in the 4 games that he was healthy. Then he gets the hamstring injury, and the thought is when he got healthy in November, let's hold him out, give him a redshirt year, and then play him in the playoff. And then there was no playoff. But I think what he gives you is a different – there's 14 wide receivers on the team, and nobody gives you quite what he gives you. He's that physical slot receiver that you don't see a lot. You know, Notre Dame will have – they can kick Jordan Faison inside. They can play him outside. But in the red zone, Greathouse is a tough matchup because a lot of those nickels aren't physical like him. And in those tight spaces at 6'1", 212 pounds, he shields the ball away from those nickels. And I just think if you put in a 4-wide set, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter, Jordan Faison, and Jaden Greathouse, try to play man against those 4 guys.
Yeah. You excited about Jaden Greathouse returning, Roy?
I am. I think that run that he had in that college football playoff was something that cannot be overlooked. And also he reminds me of a good friend of mine, Greg Salas. I don't know if you guys remember that name. He was a great receiver for the University of Hawaii, went on to play in the NFL, but he's another one of those big body slots that is an absolute nightmare for defenses when he's lined up in the slot, physical guy. So that I'm really glad he's coming back and he didn't get taken out by the NIL. So we're more than happy to have him back.
I remember, don't be upset with me, but I did like this is kind of a lame one to do, but I did like a in the old college football game in like it might have been 2010 or 2011. Boise State was my dynasty, and I always had to go up against Hawaii, and Greg Salas would always burn me. So that is how I remember that name.
He's a golfing partner of mine, so I'll definitely bring that story up to him.
The legends is that the referees at the Hawaii home games would also burn teams. Is that true, Robbie?
I would say most of the referees get flown in from the mainland. So
okay.
A lot of these basketball games, a lot of these refs are sunburnt, so they might be a little dehydrated when they get to the game. That's probably a bigger issue than them trying to burn the other teams.
Okay.
All right, for the sake of time, let's move through a little bit quicker because we have a lot to cover. Logan Thomas, and I blame myself for asking follow-ups. But Logan Thomas, the defensive end, it's just a weight thing, right, Eric? He's another X factor.
Yeah, there's two guys that were number 10. He reported allegedly at 6'3", 207. The other guy that wears number 10 is a quarterback, Noah Grubb, 6'4", 209. So you don't want your quarterback to be bigger than your defensive end, and they need a fourth defensive end.
Yeah, I remember watching your show, and I was commenting. It was the February 9th, and I texted a source, what's Logan Thomas weighing these days? Notre Dame website says 207. Is that outdated or correct? And he said outdated. He's 218.
But still.
218 still light. Yeah, he needs to be at least like, what, 225, 230?
At least, I would say 230.
Yeah.
Because if he's not, Rodney Dunham is going to go right past him.
Yeah. We'll move along. And I'm actually going to go first to Robbie on this. On your list, you have Noah Grubbs as a player to surge. Robbie, I'm curious for your thoughts. Like, can a QB2 now for context, Grubbs he started all 4 years at the high school level. He won a state championship. He lost in a state championship. I think he has over, I think it's like 54, 55 career starts. Like, he's kind of seen it all at the high school level. It's high school, but like his offensive coordinator told me that they even implemented some of Notre Dame's terminology into their offense. So it's like, if you're going to have a QB2 true freshman, I feel like it's Grubbs. So I want to start there. Like, what do you think about
I think
freshman being
right there? I think it says a lot about Noah, and one of the things that I kind of remember is when you have a QB2, he's got to be one of the team favorites too. I mean, when that guy goes in, he's got to have worked really hard. He's got to have been liked in the locker room, because then the guys root for him, right? If you get a second team quarterback that's just whiny and, oh, I should be playing, I think that's more cancerous to the program than anything. So as a true freshman, you like to see a guy, watch CJ do his work. And I forgot who it was. They were just talking or was it at the NFL Combine, or it was something about how the guy behind them, they learned a lot from watching the starter. So I do think that's very important for a guy like Noah. And hopefully he never gets an opportunity, right? We don't want CJ to get hurt, but if the opportunity does come, you hope a guy like that's locked in and ready to rumble.
Two quick thoughts before I throw it to Eric. Speaking of QB2 being a favorite, this guy was in the locker room, Steve Angeli. Thank you, Augie, for that. The other thought was I talked to Noah's dad for an article that went in our recruiting magazine, and he told me, and it's in the article, that because we did it after Noah had already enrolled, and he said that CJ has been great. He and Noah are staying, late watching tape together. So Noah, like, you could see him being like, oh, I was all this in high school, and like, try to kind of carry that in and be like, oh, kind of look at it as a competition even against CJ. But he's kind of coming humble and wanting to learn from CJ. So, but also, Eric, Blake Hebert is, I hear he's been doing pretty well, just kind of throwing the ball around. We'll see how it looks when, he's got bullets flying in competitive periods. But just kind of general thoughts about Noah Grubbs heading into spring ball and why he's someone who must surge.
Well, I mean, for a big picture, if CJ Carr misses a stretch of games, you don't want your national championship path to derail. And so you need somebody that's good enough. And Notre Dame felt like playing with the hand that it had rather than getting a portal quarterback backup was the plan. Let's develop these guys. The people that they were able to look at weren't able to beat out these guys in their opinion. Noah, to me, is a guy with the it factor. Does he have enough of the other things to go with that it factor? Because he rises to the occasion, but can he be consistent enough? But they all have to push each other. When Teddy Gerard gets there in June, and then one of those guys is probably going to be the 27th starter. I mean, we figure CJ Carr probably is going to leave after the 26th season. And so you're also developing the next in the lineage. And so that's why a really strong spring is going to set that competitive wheel in motion between those three.
Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of want to throw this out there, like CJ Carr would have been quarterback 4 for the year that Notre Dame made the national championship game, right? Like he was, I mean, there was the injury, but him getting dinged up in the fall or whenever that was aside, like he was still QB4 and he jumped to QB1. So there's no saying, Teddy Gerard, if you're QB4 this year, there's no saying that you're not going to be the same thing that CJ was, going from QB4 as a true freshman to QB1 as a redshirt freshman. That might be Gerard's path. Moving along, tight end Cooper Flanagan, Eric.
He could be a starter. I think James Flanagan will be a starter, but one thing Notre Dame was missing, especially in the red zone and short yardage, was the bully package. They did not have the 3 tight ends that could muscle you. And even when you were trying to run at the end of the game, because Notre Dame had such good running backs, they could kind of do that. But sometimes, again, you had to throw the ball just because Notre Dame's offensive line wasn't physical enough. The tight end position wasn't physical enough. Cooper and James, and you throw Ian Premer in there, you have that bully package, I think, this year. So Cooper coming back from the Achilles, I think he came back probably too early, played 4 reps all year, all in the USC game. He's back, and he's going to help them be better in short yardage.
Robbie, anything out on the tight ends?
No, just you know, we love our tight ends at Notre Dame. I mean, going back even further than Rudolph and Eifert. So it's a good problem to have when you got multiple tight ends and trying to figure out a place to put them on the field. But like you just mentioned with outstanding running backs, you don't need a ton of blockers up front. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with them.
Linebacker Madden Framo, Eric.
So, I mean, this is a kid, they said, you know what, we're going to, instead of 5 linebacker rotation, we're going to go with 4, and we're going to have you play special teams. And by the 3rd week, they said, you're just too good. We need to have you in the rotation. And especially if Kingston Viliamo-Asa's ACL surgery, it lingers a little bit longer than they think. They're hopeful that he'll be back at the beginning of the season. The most KVA type linebacker on the roster is Madden Framo. He's a guy that has coverage skills. He can play the run. He can rush the passer.
Yeah.
He's kind of right now KVA light, but eventually he's going to be that caliber of linebacker, I believe. And he's a budding star. They need him to have a good spring and be a strong part of that rotation. KVA is not going to be in the spring drills, obviously, and that's Madden's chance to really grow.
Robbie, do you like Polynesian linebackers at Notre Dame?
I do. I think they have a good history of outkicking their coverage. No, but it's, I think to Eric's point, Madden made it so they can't keep him off the field, right? So again, similar to the tight ends, it's a good problem to have when you got multiple guys out there.
Yeah, Cam Williams, Eric. I mean, I love your list because there's just like straight up position battles and things like that. But then there's just like so many X factors where it's like if he emerges, great, but you're not necessarily like counting on him, right? We're not like looking at Cam Williams and be like, man, if he doesn't step up, Notre Dame's receiver group is in trouble. But if he does, holy almost dropped a bad word, but this could be seriously an electric group.
It is. And somebody, I think on the message board, mentioned that they thought, well, Caden Finley and Elijah Burris, all those guys, you can put them in the bucket. There's 4 guys that that are going to be in that rotation. And we talked about them earlier, the two transfers, Faison and Greathouse. And then you need a couple more guys. And Micah Gilbert's probably the favorite. And then there's a whole bunch of other guys. But Cam Williams came in, if you remember, a guy that was ranked 21 spots higher than CJ Carr in that class.
Yeah.
And that talent is still there. And I think he had some breakthroughs in terms of coaching and training in November and December in terms of how he processes things. And it's going to be really interesting because you keep hearing whispers that he is surging right now. If he can carry that into spring, if not, one of those other names is going to emerge. There are 14 wide receivers right now, but I think Cam Williams has elite speed. He has the elite skills. And it would be some insurance if you had an injury, but also another guy just to throw in against a tired defense and you're throwing the ball down the field.
Robbie, any thoughts on Cam Williams? And then I don't even think we've talked to you about the two Ohio State receiver transfers, Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter. Have you looked into those guys?
I mean, anytime you can get, former big time recruits, and Ohio State's been kind of a receiver factory over the last few years. So anytime you can get somebody from those programs, I think that's only going to help us. And CJ can get the ball out to those guys, which I'm sure played a factor in them wanting to come over and join the Irish. But I did find it, I know we're kind of short on time, but I did find it interesting. We don't have any running backs that need to surge here this spring. So we lost two of the best running backs. So what were your thoughts on that, Eric?
I think there's a lot of talent in that room. I think Aeneas Williams is going to be number one, and then there's so much talent around him. I would have had Kedron Young on the list, but Kedron is still recovering from the ACL surgery. Now, he would be on the fall surge list because as big as he is, he's a different body type, and I think short yards and stuff, he can really help them. So fall camp, that's probably a name I'd have on there. But those two freshman running backs, man, and then you think about Nolan James Jr. and how versatile he is. And I do think the offensive line is going to be more physical and be able, and you're also going to have a more dangerous wide receiver passing game to deal with. And that's going to open up things in the running game. I'm sure Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price would both rush for 3,000 yards if they had those wide receivers also on the team.
Yeah.
Folks, we know you love Notre Dame memorabilia and unique one-of-a-kind Fighting Irish items. You can only find it at one place, and it is Augie's Locker Room, which is at 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend, just down the street from Notre Dame. So if you're coming in town, which I'm doing multiple times over the next few weeks, next couple months, so I will be stopping in at Augie's to say hello. So if you're doing that, if you're local, coming in town for a game, whatever the case is, folks, make sure you go to Augie's Locker Room. But if you can't make it to South Bend anytime soon, go check out his website, augieslockerroom.com. And as someone was yapping earlier, I was going through the website, and we still have two Robbie Toma items. You have the signed mini helmets, which, I mean,
Look at the penmanship.
It's actually
that is pretty cool.
That.
It's very consistent.
Look at that.
I don't know if I was asked to sign something. I don't even. My signatures are so bad. I don't know. Like, how did you even? Did you practice? Like, you were like, all right, I got to practice this. Or is this natural?
Just having dreams as a kid. I think in 7th grade I practiced over and over, and it worked out for me.
Did you ever get in contact with Augie?
No, I completely forgot about it, but I do want that jersey. I need to get that one.
This is Robbie Toma.
That was the Navy and the
MSU.
Those are I scored, and then I had probably the biggest game that year I had was at Michigan State, so that'd be a good uniform for me to get.
I love that he noted on here the name on the certificate of authenticity is spelled correctly. Thank you, Blue and Gold Podcast. Be sure to give them a follow on YouTube. All right, so if you need help getting in touch with Augie, I got to sell.
I'll reach out to him.
Yes, and Augie for all of the Angeli needs. Oh gosh, I love that guy. He's the best. Okay, so kind of moving along the segment topics, we discussed this, kind of hinted at it earlier in the show. And I did not expect to spend 30 minutes on that, but that was actually a really fun discussion with you guys talking about the spring guys, or the tend to surge.
There's
but
my
Brian,
boy BK.
So this is interesting. I've never talked to Brian Kelly in my life, right? I joined the Notre Dame beat in 2019, and he left at the end of 2021, so it wasn't that long of a time. Eric covered him for 12 years, and Robbie played with him. So it's interesting where I was like, the dynamic between the three of us and BK. So let me just roll the clip. I hope this doesn't get taken down for copyright, but it is what it is. So this is Brian Kelly talking on Sirius XM.
It's hard. I mean, we had just finished building our dream home.
Let me pause it. The context of it's hard. He's kind of talking about leaving Notre Dame. I'll go ahead and roll it again.
It's hard. I mean, we had just finished building our dream home, my wife and I. You could walk out our home and look at the Golden Dome. We tore down an apartment complex to build this beautiful home. We had no intentions of leaving Notre Dame. I was the longest and still are the longest serving head coach, all-time winningest coach. We had no idea that this was going to come upon us, or we wouldn't have done those things. So they're really difficult. I think what the ultimate decision was for us is that we got the program back to where it needed to be. Our deal coming in was we need to get this program back to being an elite program. Everybody associates success with winning national championships or winning Super Bowls or World Series. I get that. I totally get that. But that wasn't our mindset. Our mindset was to get this program back and be consistent force in college football. And so in some instances, we felt like our job had been completed. And we had one more challenge left, and that was to win a national championship. And so that's kind of what the mindset was, leading into that decision.
I don't know if I want to chime in here or just give you guys. I'll just give Eric the floor and we'll go from there. So Eric, what are your thoughts? What stands out? What do you like? What do you not like, if anything?
I mean, at least here's the thing. Let's let Robbie go first.
Okay.
Because I want to be invited to a Kenny Chesney concert.
No, I think there's a little bit of honesty in where he felt, that he couldn't get the program any further. It is a bummer as one of his former players to hear that was the goal, right?
That's my thought.
That's
the goal. I wanted to ask you.
But we all know. I mean, I know the goal was to win a national title. It wasn't just to bring Notre Dame back. So I do feel like, he was being fairly honest in his assessment of, hey, I don't know if I can get this program any further than I've gotten them. I know we've talked to exhaustion about the relationship between him and the ADs. I mean, it was a constant battle from when he got there, just to get training table, just to get certain things. So listen, I respect the guy for what he did for me, and he got the best out of me, and he got the best out of the teams I played on for the most part. But yeah, it is a little disappointing to hear, hey, I did what we agreed upon when we all know the national championship was the goal, right? Yeah. So
and he did those things. He did bring Notre Dame back to being an elite program. Now at the end, let me just play it again.
And we had one more posture.
Let me play it from right here.
And we had one more challenge left, and that was to win a national championship.
When he says we had one more challenge, that was win a national championship. When he says we multiple times in there, he's kind of speaking as I, and we kind of sounds like me and my family. So when I heard this, I'm thinking, is he talking about?
You mispronounced family. Just go ahead.
Eric, I see where this is going. I like it.
We had to win this at Notre Dame, or the goal was to win a national championship and we needed to leave. Like, I'm not sure if he meant the goal was to win.
It just sounds like to me that he feels he couldn't have done it there and didn't have the support, right? I mean, that was kind of a big thing that I think he talked about when he got to LSU, was having support, right? So, and clearly Freeman has shown differently, right?
He's got the support.
I'm with it. So, but again, it's kind of like the relationship between him and Notre Dame was at its end, and it was time for something new for both. And guess what? I mean, Notre Dame has the best man for the job now, and that's not a knock on Brian Kelly. I love the guy to death. He did a lot for me, but Coach Freeman is the right man for the job, and I don't think anybody is a better college coach than Marcus Freeman.
Before we go to Eric, let me pull up this tweet. I saved this from Douglas Bray. He said all he had to do was a 10-minute press conference thanking administrators, coaches, players, fans, Usher, etc. Say he's proud of what he's able to accomplish and think it's time for him and Notre Dame to pursue new opportunities. All would be fine. I agree. Now, I don't know about a press conference, but like I feel like BK, it just keeps doing things to further tarnish how he's viewed. Like I have said many times, the longer we go from his exit in December of 2021, the more favorably he's going to be viewed among Notre Dame Nation. But then he just keeps saying things like this. It's just like, I feel like it's just stop. Just don't do anything more. Eric?
I'm not going to do revisionist history with Brian Kelly because I think he did a lot of good things for Notre Dame. And I got along with him great. He was very good to me. And yet I think he's probably pissed off at me right now. And
you did have a little viral clip.
I did. And yet I feel like you have to be true to what you believe. And I don't think he is. And I think I was. And so I'm going to stand on that. And this is
can you expand more on that? Because people may not have seen that, what you said.
Well, I just felt like him saying that, going to LSU and basically saying that you can't win a national championship on Notre Dame was a big FU to the guys that he recruited, the guys that he promised, the guys that he sold that dream on, and then to walk out the door, because that's what he always said. We're going to win a national championship. We believe it with all our heart. He walks out the door. You can't win it. Guess what, Marcus? That's a hot potato in your lap. And I thought that was a big FU. And I said that in the viral clip. And what I'll say now is, before we went on the air, I went back and read a story I did where I spent a day with Brian Kelly in between the 2016 and the 2017 season. And that was a Brian Kelly that looked in the mirror and said, I'm owning all my shortcomings. I need a makeover. I need a staff makeover, but I need a Brian Kelly makeover. I need to look in the mirror. And guess what happened? There was a great Notre Dame renaissance that followed that. And I think that's what Brian Kelly needs to do again. He needs to look in the mirror and he needs to take ownership of why things failed at LSU. If you talk to people in the coaching business, they'll say what his shortcomings were and that he wasn't listening to people, and he needs to listen to people because there's a good coach inside there still. But this, well, we were just going to take it this and then hand it off to somebody that could get it to point C. Yeah, it's a better excuse than the cafeteria, not having a cafeteria.
I do think when you look at even in terms, and this is a little different situation, but Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, going over to LSU, and then trying to play this game where he still loves LSU so much. I mean, it's almost sickening.
Still loves Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. It's kind of sickening hearing him, leave a program like that and on the way to a national title in order to win a national title. So I don't know what kind of things they're selling these coaches at LSU, but clearly it has to do with something about not being able to win titles anywhere else. But nonetheless, I think BK should have had some type of gratitude towards the university at the time of departure. And for Maris, I think Maris was on the team at that time, and I remember kind of texting him, seeing how he's doing, and none of them knew what was going on. And for guys that are in the locker room, they deserve better than that.
I agree. And the whole thing, I had brought up the whole forever home that they were building, saying this is why Brian Kelly's first exit strategy and his explanation didn't make any sense. Why do you build that house if you're thinking about leaving this whole time? And then he acts like it came out of the blue. From what I heard, his agent was shopping him around. If it wasn't LSU, it was going to be something else. So I don't know. I just think, again, I think there's a very good coach in there. I think he did a lot of good things for Notre Dame. And yet I'm not buying any of this. Sorry.
And to Mike's point, just there's no need to explain anymore. It's just right off in the sunset already at this point.
Yeah, I just
I can understand why Robbie had a good relationship with him. I can understand why I did. I did not get invited to a Kenny Chesney concert, but I did get to use the bathroom in his office. So,
boom,
Robbie, like I get where you're coming from. It's like if someone's done so much for you, even if you don't like what they're doing right now, there's just like there's still that gratitude. Like thinking in my profession, there was a guy who got me into the business. And I mean, I worked for him for free, but still, like I learned so much under this guy. And although I didn't really like how it ended with me and him, like if I ever put out like hey, I just got a new job when I got blue and gold, I put like 6 people that I put him in there, even though I didn't have a great relationship with him anymore. And we hadn't talked in several years. It's like still put him there. So there's like that element of just like, so that's why like Robbie may not like what BK said, but he's not going to be like, screw you, BK. It's like if someone's done so much for you in life and in your profession, your career, you just, there's like a sense of loyalty, but you could still disagree with what the person said. So I wasn't sure what your thoughts were going to be on this, Robbie, and you as well.
No, I'm not a fan with hearing that explanation of it, because I know that is not the true feeling on what the agreement or the goal was, right? But again, it was a part of winning a national championship is bringing Notre Dame back to relevancy, right? And that part of it, I don't think his PR guy had a good answer for that one at that point.
There's no way he does have a PR
guy.
So after you lost in the 2012 championship game, Brian didn't come in the locker room and say, "It's okay. This is where we wanted to get. This is our ceiling.
We're done."
Yeah, we're done. Let's not worry about recruiting Jalen Smith in the next class.
Yeah, I don't remember shit from that game except just being angry in the locker room and not wanting to talk to a soul. So
I think there's something that Brian is trying to do, and it's like try to speak into existence, remind everyone all of the good things he did accomplish that. Like he did do everything he needed to do at Notre Dame. I don't think he believes that the goal was not necessarily to win a national championship. I don't think that's the truth. I think that there's some kind of spin zone happening, or he's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants trying to make things sound better. I don't know, but I just think that he just is gotta stop. Just how hard would it have been to just say, "Man, I love Notre Dame. I'm so happy for Marcus, and that's great," and just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
So what flies in the face too is when a couple years after BK leaves, Mike Denbrock comes to Notre Dame and says, "A big reason why I'm back at Notre Dame is because I believe Notre Dame can win a national championship, and I think Marcus can do that."
That's an action speaking.
And that was him leaving from LSU back to Notre Dame as well.
Robbie, I know you usually have to hop off around 3 or no, you guys don't have time.
No, normally it's 4. I gotta get the kids. But remember, we're an hour back.
Yeah,
we're an hour back.
Daylight saving time. You guys don't do that there in Hawaii, right?
Nope. We run it hard.
Indiana used to be one of those states, and
then it dropped in 2006.
I don't remember when. 6 or 7.
I was looking this up earlier when I was texting Robbie, and that's what the Google AI popped up. I think it was 2006. Indiana stopped it. All right. Anyways,
I said 6, 7, and you didn't even give me credit for it.
Eric, we've been making that joke for probably 6 or 7 months now.
I'm over that crap.
All right, let's finish up the show with our segment. Is it something or nothing? Somewhere between 0 to 20 people have reached out to me saying how much they love this segment. So it might be 0, but we're going to continue on with it anyway. Mike,
just me and Eric.
Mike Renner, who does a great job. I believe Mike Renner's is a Notre Dame grad. Used to be at PFF, now he's with CBS Sports. He tweeted out, every time I watch a Notre Dame offensive prospect, I'm reminded that Jordan Faison is one of the most underrated players in college football, makes everything look easy. It's something, right, Robbie?
Oh, you guys, you know how to play with my heartstrings. I love this guy, Faison. This guy is the man. He's wildly underrated. He's where he needs to be at all points in time, and it shows when he plays on the field. And I was a little bummed that he didn't go ahead and play lacrosse again.
Really?
Just because it was fun. It was fun to watch the team rally around him while he was out there. That was fun from an outside perspective, but it does show how serious he is about this football season. So that's what I take away from that.
Because you can't fact check, because I'm saying it's from a source, so it may or may not be true. Sources have told me that Faison is following in your footsteps, Robbie, as that slot receiver with your kind of style.
I mean, I that is a honor to hear that, but Faison is light years ahead of me, and I'm man enough to look in the mirror and understand that.
He's going to be an NFL
but
guy.
One of the greatest compliments I got was from Denbrock. I think after their Georgia game, I sent him a text like, "God, I love that Faison kid," and he's like, "Yeah, well, he reminds me a lot of you." And I was like, "Okay, let me frame this text message real quick." But no, Jordan's a hell of an athlete and a hell of a leader, and looking forward to seeing him this year.
I love that story. Eric, something?
Mike Denbrock also texted me that Jordan Faison reminded me of him. So
you were second on that one. He did.
Denbrock just texted me too right now. He's watching the show. Hi, Mike.
I do think this is something. I think Jordan Faison is amazing, and not playing lacrosse is going to help his football future. You think about it, was just non-ending for him year after year, going from one sport to the other and being really good at both of them. I think it'll show up in his football. He did say, "Hey, take my little brother. He'll play lacrosse this spring." So that's what's going on there. And they are the #1 team in the country without him. But yeah, they could certainly use him. Maybe he could play just for a couple of weeks in May.
And Dylan Faison, it was a 5-star lacrosse recruit too, so he's legit. And I don't know if Notre Dame still feels like this, but I had some sources back when Notre Dame landed his commitment, and maybe this was lip service, but they thought at the same point Dylan was better than Jordan. As a
big shoes to fill.
So, and by the way, if you're new, this is It Something or Nothing segments. Eric and Robbie don't know what I'm popping up on the screen, so this is kind of like raw reaction here. All right, Eric, I don't know if you saw this story that I did, but it was March 8th. I did this article about like looking at Notre Dame's recruiting staff, and that's the assistant coaches, that's the recruiting office, that's kind of all the personnel folks, that's everyone kind of involved in the football program, and that you lost 2 of the top 10 recruiters in the 2026 class in Al Washington and Mike Mickens. That's not my opinion. That is from Steve Wolfung. He did that article of the top 10 recruiters and of the assistant coaches, I should say. And Washington and Mickens were on that. So you lose 2, and then you go and retain every key member of your personnel department, from Carter Ahman to Jordan Blake, of course, Mike Martin, a lot of those folks behind the scenes. And then you keep Trey Reeder when Michigan State was trying to hire him. You keep like some key analysts like Nick Sebastian, who works at the defensive line, and Harris Biven, who works with the tight ends. Those guys hit the road and recruit. So you kept those guys as analysts when you would assume that they were getting looks for position jobs at other programs. And then you hired Javon Codlin. You kind of brought him back from North Texas, but you still brought him in. Sean Shivers, who had just been hired by Florida State in January. He's your assistant receivers coach to work under Mike Brown. Big time South Florida recruiter. You bring in DJ Bryant and Kenny Sanders from Penn State to work in your recruiting office. And then you even bring in Chase Sanders, a graduate assistant who played at he's another analyst, not a graduate assistant, played at Wake Forest, and then was just an analyst on the Wake Forest staff. And then Sanders is going to help, with the defensive side of the ball and recruit all those positions. I believe he played linebacker. And then you hire in Aaron Henry, Brian Jean-Marie, and Charlie Partridge. And Eric, by the way, Aaron Henry Brian Jean-Marie, and Charlie Partridge, all from Florida. Javon Codlin's from Florida, and Sean Shivers is from Florida. So a lot of ties to the Sunshine State. All right.
Robbie and I are not from Florida, but I do think that this is something, and I did read the article, and I do think it's important. Notre Dame, you can remember kind of the panic in the fan base last winter, early spring. Oh my gosh, Chad Bowden's gone, and everything's falling apart, and USC's putting a ring around California, and they'll never be able to recruit there, and then Notre Dame ends up with a number 2 class. But I think they can get even more early momentum with all this continuity. I also think it matters, Mike, in terms of on-field stuff. You know, with having these larger rosters, I mean, you have 14 wide receivers to coach. If you only had 1 wide receivers coach, I think that some people may not get the player development they deserve. And then going back to the recruiting part of it, I interviewed Kari Adams the other day, and we asked him about Codlin, and he's like, that's my dog. He goes, it's one of the reasons why I signed with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So these guys, even though maybe they're not everyday names to the average fan, they are significant contributors to the program.
Mr. Toma?
I think this speaks volumes to Mr. Singer over here doing some reporting. Look at this. That's some good stuff right there. That's quality. That's quality stuff. Nobody's doing what we're doing here at Blue and Gold.
So Rob, you're saying it's
that's a clip.
There you go. But no, I think this is impressive for, you know, kind of what we've been talking about with Brian Kelly, and you know, it just seems like folks want to be involved with Marcus Freeman, and in a time I don't understand how recruiting goes, or you know, with the NIL. And to Eric's point, you know, in player development, when I think at this point in time in college football, kids probably feel left out more than anything if they're not playing or whatnot. So it's important to have good communication from top to bottom, and you know, keep, you know, continuity within the program. And so I think having high level recruiters is definitely important. And also when you have a good staff, some of your top guys are going to get poached, right? So we're going to probably see this more often.
What do you mean you don't know what's going on with recruiting? You don't remember when I was calling you up for insight on Titus Atamalala back in?
I know, but that was even a few years ago. We didn't have all this NIL debacle.
He did pretty well at UCLA, right? He had a good little career for himself.
Yeah, he started at Central Florida. He was there with Dylan Gabriel, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan, obviously with Tommy, it's a small world.
Is he getting any NFL stuff?
Well, I don't think so. I think he's coming out this year. So, but I didn't hear of him at the combine or anything.
Maybe like an undrafted guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
More likely than not. Yeah.
Got a couple
Robbie,
more.
you needed an NIL deal with an airline. What was it? United? You guys flew back to Hawaii?
We did United because it's a straight shot from Chicago.
Yeah.
That was always fun. We probably should have got Coach USA the bus from Chicago to Notre Dame.
So we've gone over by 8 minutes, and I'm kind of burying.
Yeah, I do have to make some more work calls, guys. So I got to get running soon.
All right, we got one more. I'm kind of burying a major thing here, but let me play this, and we'll see if I get a copyright here. But this is Marcus Freeman on Good Morning Football last week.
Never say never. Right?
And this is him being asked about NFL.
Yeah.
Never say never. Right? And dream, maybe I daydream every once in a while or think about it. And when there was some interest this year, I said it in my press conference, it gave me the opportunity to gain knowledge on what being a head coach in the NFL truly entails. What's the relationship with the GM, the ownership? What do they believe it takes to have success at that level? And so I learned a lot about what being an NFL head coach entails, and it's knowledge that I'll continue to keep in my head. And you know, if there's a time and opportunity that's right, then we'll see what the future holds. I always say the future's uncertain, but I have the best job in America, and I say that with a strong conviction. I love this place. I have the greatest support from our university top down, the administration. and I get the chance to coach some of the best young men in the world. And this is what I'm called to do. And I'm fulfilled and I'm happy and I love being here. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity, most importantly, to represent this university, but to coach these young people that are amazing. And so we'll see what the future holds. But in this moment, in the near future, I am as convicted as I can be being the head coach of this place and being around these young people.
There's a lot there, boys. Like I said, I'm kind of burying a major thing.
I mean, I think it's nothing in terms of him wanting to leave, and something in that he thinks about it. You know, I mean, the guy is clearly one of the best head coaches, and you know, you could argue he hasn't been to the NFL, but if he goes to the NFL, I feel like he'll make a direct impact. And a guy like that you want to play for, and you know, even if guys are around the same age or whatnot, you want to play with, right? Like Freeman just has kind of what I talked about with Lou Holtz. He commands a room, and he's a great motivator. And I think Notre Dame is very lucky to have him, and we need to continue to make Marcus Freeman happy. And the other thing that I've always thought about, he's got a solid number of kids. I think he has he can have his own basketball team with a couple subs as well. But you know, you want your kids to be happy, and I feel like Notre Dame's provided an opportunity for him to spend a lot of time with his family and also be close to them, and I couldn't be happier for the guy.
Something or nothing, Eric.
I'm going to copy off of Robbie's paper. Nothing in terms of him leaving imminently. Something in terms of, I think the research changed his thinking in terms of, I'm shutting this door for years, to, okay, we'll put it on the back burner, not think about it, but it's on the back burner. I don't think it was on the back burner before. And I think he learned a lot about it's not one size fits all either. I did a story with Charlie Weiss when Marcus had not yet agreed or said run it back for 2026. And he was talking about why the NFL would find Marcus attractive and what Marcus might find attractive about the NFL. And some of it is everything a head coach has to do right now in terms of player retention, especially. You know, you're re-recruiting your roster every freaking day now because of the rules. It's not just going out and getting portal additions. It's not just about recruiting. It's keeping everybody on your roster happy and keeping that culture in an environment where it's much more pro-oriented than it was when you got into the business. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But I think there's been a shift there, not enough of a shift where it's a matter of time that he leaves, but a shift in terms of if the right opportunity came, he would consider it.
Do you remember when Horka asked him about his NFL future and he stumbled? He was like, I haven't thought about it.
I stumble when Horka asks me questions too.
But when he said that, and then you remember that, and then you hear what he said on that Good Morning Football interview, he didn't know about it, and now he does. So I love the authenticity. Like I do. I like the fact that he's out front with it, and if it does happen, at least the guys that play for him say, you know what, he was honest with us about it. Yeah. I think in a perfect world, Freeman wins a national championship at Notre Dame, and then sometime after that he would go. I think that would everyone would win at that point. All right, we are going to wrap up the show there to let Robbie go back to work. And I got a very early.
So 3:17. I still got about an hour and a half, gentlemen.
All right, let's go another hour and a half then.
No, of work. We'll see you guys.
All right. Yeah, we're going to wrap up the show there. I got an early flight in the morning, Eric. I'm going to Colorado tomorrow, and I'm not even taking any time off work. Do you want to know why? Because I want the option to say no to things with the in-laws so I can just stay back at the house and get some things done if I need to.
You better hope they aren't watching.
They usually don't, but every once in a while my father-in-law pops on, but I think he'll understand. But folks, please do hit the thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. Make sure you go to blueandgold.com for all of our written coverage, hop on our message board, the Loose Emoji board, and talk with thousands of other Notre Dame fans. Thank you all for watching or listening, and we'll catch you next time.